What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Echoes, a Notre Dame podcast. I'm Mike Golic Jr. She's Jessica Smetana. We appreciate you guys joining us. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to our podcast. Watch our show on YouTube. We always appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button. It certainly helps. A little housekeeping. We will be off next week from the podcast. We were supposed to be off this week, but obviously big news in the Notre Dame universe as legendary national championship winning head coach Lou Holtz passed away at the age of 89. I did see visitation going to be Sunday, March 15th on 7 to 10 p.m. from the Basilica in South Bend. Mass and a burial to follow that Monday as well. But this all happened I think pretty expectedly for a lot of people going back. He entered into hospice care in January, knew this could be a reality. And to help us talk about that, Aaron Taylor going to join us in just a couple minutes here. Former Notre Dame All-American offensive lineman, Lombardi Award winner, played for Coach Holtz in the early 90s, and really is going to do a phenomenal job of taking us inside that locker room with someone that so many people have an attachment to from the outside. And Jess, I think this reaction been massive, not only in the world of Notre Dame football. Coach Holtz obviously spanned other jobs in college football, but also part of a career as a media member. My earliest memories of him at ESPN, the Dr. Lou segments, debating Mark May. Like, there were a lot of connective points for someone that is also the last memory Notre Dame has and Notre Dame fans have of the truly great times on campus where they could say they were the best team in college football, and something they've been searching for ever since.
Yeah, really sad, Mike, to hear of the news, and certainly a lot of older alumni who spent time on campus with Lou Holtz and who, were familiar with him and had those firsthand experience of him are feeling it, as well as the rest of the Notre Dame community. But you and I both a little bit on the younger side, so we figured Aaron Taylor would be probably the best person to really talk with his firsthand experience being coached by Lou Holtz. Because like you, my earliest memories are really the ESPN ones, the college football final show. And ESPN ran a few tributes to him this past weekend during college basketball coverage. So I think, we'll let Aaron take it away. And then after the interview, we'll do a little bit more from us and also give a little bit of a basketball update. And then we'll be off next week.
Yeah, no, certainly a lot to get to in that regard. And Aaron will be super helpful there. And it's going to be interesting. Like you said, Coach Holtz meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people as he went along in his life. Some in the later years, obviously, were parts that people disagreed with, and certain people certainly had different feelings about. But I think of the football version of Coach Holtz, the 1988, that just for so many Notre Dame players, especially around my age and fans now, 1988 kind of gets thrown in our face a lot more than it gets celebrated, right? Like, it is people holding that up as Notre Dame hasn't been great since when, Notre Dame hasn't accomplished this since then. And so I think for a lot of people right now, this is kind of a chance to go back and actually, celebrate that. That certainly happens around South Bend, but I think more overall now, that getting talked about, and, just the way that foothold in college football has eluded Notre Dame since then. And for Coach Holtz, someone who not only accomplished at that high level, but also did it with, all the charisma that we see and know and heard over the years, I think that's always going to create a unique attachment. Notre Dame welcomes a lot of people back, but when you hang a banner around there, it's different. And when you go to campus and see the Play Like a Champion Today sign that was a Holtz era creation that, is so steeped in Notre Dame lore, people think it's been around a lot longer, but came from that era of Notre Dame football. When you're a player going down the tunnel and you look above the Play Like a Champion sign at the bottom and you see the list of championship years and accolades, 1988's the last one. It's the one we're all trying to add to. It's the one that, we have failed up until this point to do so. And so, that legacy is really never far away around campus. And I know he's been back plenty. People have seen him around there over the years, but it's, now the last living national championship winning head coach in Notre Dame's history has passed away. And there's a weird finality to that for a lot of people that sort of underscores, how long it's been, but also how important that time was.
And I think there's also, when you hear former players talk about him, there's also a lot of parallels you can draw to how Notre Dame is today, how the football players run, what Marcus Freeman is like. And that's something that I found really interesting about this interview was just hearing about, like you said, the charisma. And Aaron Taylor will say, wanting to play well out of spite is something that has directly we've heard from players about Marcus Freeman over the
Yeah.
past season. So I think that's an interesting element as well and an interesting parallel. And I'm sure next year Notre Dame during the season is going to do many things to honor Lou Holtz.
No question. He's one of the most important modern figures at the university and in this sport. And like you said, there are a lot of parallels, like Marcus Freeman and his ability to connect with players. That charisma is something unique because I played for a lot of different guys at Notre Dame between, head coaches, assistant coaches, position coaches. And I had the chance, actually, I was on campus and Lou Holtz came back and talked to our team when I was there, and it was on like a Friday night. We were ready to play the game walking out of that team meeting room. Like, it felt like a crime that we had to go to bed and wake up and try and manufacture that all again. And it was kind of my first realization of how special that gift is for a coach to be able to have, because I never encountered anyone else who had that ability to command the room like that, to have everyone sitting on pins and needles in that same way. A lot of great communicators, a lot of great coaches, but that's a unique gift in its own right. And I think that ability to connect with players, fans, everyone else like that is part of the reason that Coach Holtz wound up with such a foothold for a lot of people. And getting the chance to see that firsthand was eye-opening, to say the least.
And also a college football coach who actually had a sense of humor and could tell jokes, Mike. I mean, sometimes they try and they just don't land. So I think you also have to credit him with that.
Yeah, no, you gotta know how to execute that one and get it done the right way, and certainly that was always the case for Lou Holtz. So a tremendous loss for the Notre Dame community. Certainly, you think of his family and the people that knew him the most in that time period right now, as the Notre Dame community at large mourns that loss, but certainly felt more deeply by the people that were, touched more immediately by him and by his time at Notre Dame. And so with that in mind, we're going to step aside and play for you our interview with former Notre Dame All-American offensive lineman Aaron Taylor, talking about his experience under Coach Holtz. All right, as promised, excited to welcome in Aaron Taylor, former Notre Dame All-American Lombardi Award winner, doing a great job now over at CBS, in addition to being the leader of the Joe Moore Award, part of continuing on a legacy from his era at Notre Dame that's going to be the big topic of conversation today. Considering, Aaron, you obviously played for Lou Holtz, the man who's been top of mind and top of discussion for so many people since his passing over this last week. So I'm sure it's been a flurry of emotion for you. So we appreciate you giving us some time today, man. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, Mike. When you reached out, I was like, anytime I get a chance to tell some Holtz stories or to kind of review and celebrate a dude that meant so much to me and so many others, man, it's been a great and reverent week. I know I took some heat for using the word effervescent on Eric Hansen's article in that podcast I did with him. So I'm going to drop some more vocabulary on yours here.
Oh, I would love that. So in that interview that you just referenced, you said that Lou Holtz had a sort of effervescent personality, I believe, when you met him. Can you explain what exactly that means?
Man, I wish I could. Sometimes I say things and I'm not quite sure what the words mean. But in this case, I'm pretty sure it was just the almost the reverence or the bigness of him. There was this very polished quality to Lou, and also this off the cuff spontaneity, this improvisational skill that was out of this world. And I think it was that juxtaposition that kind of kept us all off balance. But I remember first meeting him in 1989. It was the football banquet. Everybody was excited. It was a year removed from the national championship. And he just had total command of the entire room. And it was when we did it in the ACC, in the indoor part there. The public was allowed to attend. And it was this larger-than-life character that came in this pint-sized package. And I remember thinking, man, this dude, when he walks into a room, he's got that it factor. And I hadn't played with players at that point that kind of had it. I did in college. I certainly did in the NFL. And certainly in the business world, you walk into rooms and there's a presence where guys just own their space. And I think that was the first time I ever encountered that. And that's probably loosely what I was referring to when I said he was effervescent.
Well, and you mentioned the size too. I had a couple of people ask that to me over the last week of, how a coach who's obviously someone who's so much physically smaller wouldn't walk in and be that imposing Dan Campbell figure in a room, how he can not only command the room in that way, but also set the kind of tone that it appeared Coach Holtz did with all those teams. Like, why was he so effectively able to come in and have that kind of success leading men the way he did for you guys?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, Mike. And I think like offensive lineman, right? You got to use what you got. And for him, he didn't have the size to be able to walk in, but the way that he played effectively and was able to block us and move us to where we didn't want to go was his ability to communicate. And that was tone, it was volume. Sometimes he would come in and start talking about what it is we needed to do. And other times he'd whisper and make you lean in and listen to every word his ass had to say. So he was dynamic that way. And I think his innate ability was to be able to galvanize us, and he would do whatever it took to do that, even if it was at his own expense. And he would, we'd all be pissed off at him. He'd bring the team together, we'd rally, and blah 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 blah. We were ready, we were prepared, and we were inspired to go out there every Saturday and kick people's asses. So like he could read the room really really well. And I just, that would manifest in so many different ways. You saw full range, man. He was like the Mariah Carey of college football coaches because of all the range that he had. But he would be able to walk in and very quickly assess what needed to be done, execute it. And before we even knew what happened, we were on the train and headed towards a victory.
So a lot of former players talk about that quality in him being able to motivate them on a person to person level. But what was it about his sort of football mind that you think made him a successful coach at Notre Dame?
Details. Details, details, details. I mean, X's and O's, everybody's got kind of, an ability to understand what's going to work and what's not, to make in-game adjustments. He had an incredible staff there. Joe Moore, my offensive line coach, amongst them, but there were many, many others. But I think it was having a plan and how committed he was to the fundamentals and the basics and the how we win. It started out without hit, the most physical team on the field tomorrow is going to win the ball game. We must control the line of scrimmage on both sides. And then we just would go down, what it is we needed to do and the critical errors and turnovers and missed assignments and foolish penalties, field position, special teams, like all the boring stuff. But it was the details. And for me, that was best represented as a freshman. And I've shared this story before, but he was all caught up on the stripe on a stripe. We were in Adidas school back then. Put a stripe on a stripe. Now we're freshmen with tape on our helmets and our last names because they didn't have any idea who we were. And we certainly had no idea whether it was a damn run, a pass, whether it was going left or right. It was moving fast. And here he is when it's freshman only harping on us about keeping a stripe on a stripe, the three stripes on the Adidas being matched up directly and perfectly with the foot of the person that's adjacent to you. And he was manic about it. And we're like, what the hell is he doing? Well, finally, the vets come in, and I asked the question, like, what's this whole stripe on a stripe thing? Like, oh, man, that's what he does for details. Like, if you're in the huddle and you're focused on making sure that your stripe is lined up on the stripes next to the guy next to you, then maybe you're walking up to the line of scrimmage and worrying about where your stance is and where your landmark's going to be on the snap of the ball and the cadence and all these little details. So that was the way, day one, as true freshmen showing up on campus, he taught us about the importance of being detail-oriented. So for him to do that and choose to do it, and everything was always theatrics with him, for him to do that, that's how he reinforced what was important, but he did it so subtly that none of us were caught on. But that's why we all revere him so much, because he was a masterful teacher. Good coaches are good teachers, and Holtz is amongst the best of all time.
You mentioned the theatrics. I'd seen a lot of the clips making the rounds of the newspaper trick that everyone got to see. Like I remember being in a room as a player when he came back and spoke to the team when we were there and did that and had us all eating out of the palm of his hand. Was there another like Holtz is? Because I'm sure you saw a lot of these same ones over the years throughout your time there. Was there another one that stuck out to you that was like a memorable, Holtz go-to when it came to some of the rallying cries?
Well, that's certainly the most famous. There were certainly some speeches. I haven't shared the story, and maybe now that he's in the great locker room in the sky, I can do it. We were playing BYU, I think my sophomore year, and he would always do a State of the Union on the team that we were going to play. And this speaks to his ability to be able to galvanize and motivate. So we come in and he's like, man, we're playing the BYU Cougars. They're a veteran team. They're talented. They've got guys on there that are 27 years old and have 6 kids and mustaches. I just want to warn you. So he goes into this whole thing. He's like, and then he gets into the history a little bit about the Mormon church and John Smith and what happened in the 60s with segregation. And he said, and I quote, and like he gets this piece of paper out that purportedly had the quote. Now, again, this is theatrics. And decided to allow African Americans in the church to save them from themselves. Let's go to work. We were like, what? They're doing what? Are you, what? It says that? And like, we were frothy at that moment. So we all break and go into our meeting rooms, started doing some research, and like, he covered the facts, but the way that he would do it, it was always us against them. And on Sunday, Monday, there was nothing you could do to even have a chance to beat the team that you were going to play, regardless if that was Purdue or Navy at that time. Very different Navy nowadays. But by the time Friday and Saturday morning came, you could beat the 85 Bears, man. And he had little dials that he would push and prod to allow us to be at our best. And it was masterful. It was like a conductor, orchestrating the symphony and making sure that everything happened at the same time. Now, the coaches that coached for him will tell you he was crazy behind the scenes. He was a stressed out maniac, worried about everything, micromanaged. He was very hard to coach for. But as we know, with success, it's not for everybody. And the ones that can keep that container tight, that can set the standard, make sure that everybody adheres to that standard are the ones that's successful. It's not an easy skill set to do. And Holtz certainly had his own way of going about it, but undeniable the success that he had, sending 6 different teams to bowl games. The only coach that's ever done that in the history of our sport. And aside from winning the national championship, dude was a Hall of Fame coach for a reason.
I know you've talked about how there was not just this, we love you coach type relationship when you were a player. You also, like, he would get on you guys and he was really hard sometimes and would coach you hard. So can you talk a little bit about what kind of relationship that was with him, where it seems like so many former players have this reverence for him, but also admit, yeah, he pushed us really hard.
Man, he would hit you with the disappointed dad, right? Like you missed the block, he'd just walk away, act like you're invisible, he wouldn't see you. But there was this part of you that was like, you wanted to play well, mostly to spite him, just to get him off your back and to prove, you had what it took. So he had this incredible way of doing that. One of his shticks and go-tos was, I'm never going to recruit blank area again. And we all heard it, Golic, I'm never going to recruit Connecticut again. Your ass is so terrible. It just makes me never want to recruit Illinois again. Like that was his whole thing. He would call guys in the office to go over what the expectations were for them that he had, because clearly we did not understand what those were and needed to pick it up. But my sophomore year, there was a situation where we were running with the scout team. It was late in the fall, and we were working over some game plan stuff. And there was a defensive lineman on the scout team who I did not like, and I was going to kill him. So we come off the ball, Mike, and I take way too big of a first step. I overstride, and he slants inside and hits the running back, who was Dorsey Levens, boom, down on the ground. Holtz says, get out, Aaron Taylor, get out. I'm like, no, I got it, coach. Buckle my, you get out. So my backup comes running in and says, you get your ass out too. You're not worth a damn either. So now there's 10 people in the huddle, and he wants the play run exactly as if Aaron Taylor was in there. So the left tackle doesn't know what to do, so he lines up next to the center. There's 2 defensive linemen that are bracketing the center. Like the whole formation's screwed up. No, line up exactly as if Aaron Taylor's ass was in there. So it's left tackle, this 3-yard void, the center, guard, tackle. The front is lined up. So the defensive lineman, Mike, is lined up on there. So, man, the quarterback comes up to the line of scrimmage, gets back up underneath. Blue 52, set hut. Defensive lineman comes across the line of scrimmage, smacks the running back, boom. And without breaking stride, Holtz comes running over, grabs me by the face mask and says, "See, Aaron Taylor, doesn't matter whether your ass is in there or not. No difference." So at this point, the whole team is like, what the hell's going on? Everybody's laughing at my expense because it was identical and it was ridiculous to take 4 minutes out of mid practice at the end of the year and make a point visually about how important it is for me to do my job. And that if I don't do my job, other people pay the price, and that's not okay. So he didn't just teach me that lesson. He taught the entire team that lesson in that moment. Now, again, that's probably something he had done throughout the years and learned, but I never forgot that moment. It's why I always tell the story. It helped me to understand what was really going on and what my job was, because I wanted to kick somebody's ass. I didn't use proper technique and I got beat. I just missed my block, but the running back took a lick, and that wasn't okay. And man, that's, again, one of many ways that Holtz found new ways to help us to understand what's important now.
It's fascinating. Like you said, it underscores the accountability that's so unique about this sport. And I'm sure how your guys' relationship changed over time. Like you mentioned, seeing him at the banquet when he's fresh off the glow of a national championship, coming in as a freshman, trying to get going in this. How did the relationship change, if at all, towards the end of your career? Again, you were a Lombardi Award winner, an All-American, one of the best players, not only on that team, but in all of college football, that was going to go on to a bright NFL future. And then also, after you left there, like, how did that relationship with him change as you grew from, a freshman into a veteran into an adult after the fact?
It matured, Mike. And those of us that are parents, you watch your relationships with your kids change. Those of us that are kids, which is, I think, everybody on the planet, probably have different relationships with their parents as it goes on. And that certainly was the case with me and with many other players. And I don't think I was unique when I share, like, he was there for us. If I ever needed anything, an autograph, 10 minutes to do an interview, to fly down to his house, to, kick off, to show the access I could get for this harebrained idea I had, he would schedule it out and book it. He always made sure that he was there. So when he would say, "Let me know if you ever need anything," he meant it. And I would email him, and I didn't ask much. I respected it. But if there was ever anything I needed, he was there for me. But he never asked for anything either. And that's a rare, rare, rare quality that I found in people. And I've always appreciated that about him. And his memory, the way that he would remember my mom's name and certain details about when I was getting recruited, when, the one time she came to campus and what that moment was like. Like, he had this incredible Rolodex of memories where when you were sitting in front of him, you felt like you were the most important dude in the world to him. And you were for that minute until it was the next most important person or man or woman or whatever. Like, he was masterful at that. So at the very end, his body was pretty frail. And this was about a year and a half ago. I sat down and did a podcast that he had. This was, I believe, his way of kind of cementing his own legacy. I think he was, very involved in politics and endorsing candidates, and some of that endorsement alienated some of his former players. But I agreed to do the podcast, and I've had this unique opportunity the last several decades where I'm hyper aware that the conversation I'm having with somebody is going to be the last one I've ever had. And for whatever reason, I've chosen to step into those moments, whereas, visiting my mom in hospice, or, talking with Coach Moore on the phone shortly after I retired, to George Kelly, who was the DFO for Coach Holtz back in the day. And I was acutely aware that sitting there talking with Holtz, that was probably going to be the last time that I would talk to him. And shortly after his wife, Beth, died. And I just leaned into letting him know how much I appreciated what he had done for me and for all of my teammates, and for helping me be a good person with a just heart. And if I make a mistake, to how to write that, to how to be a good husband and employee, and how to work hard and how to be there for others, trust, love, and commitment. What's important now? That's how we win. Trusting fundamentals, visualization, and positive self-talk, like these tools now that neuroscience is teaching us work, and there's science and data behind it. We were doing in the 90s, laying in Loftus on the AstroTurf. Like, he was so ahead of his time in so many ways. But I just shared with him how grateful I was for who he was and what he had done. And I'll never forget that conversation. I got emotional a couple times in it. And I think, like a lot of those conversation goes, it's deflecting, and, it's like playing pickleball. You send it, it gets volleyed back, and you just get in this volley of, who can love on each other the most. But that's how it really changed. The reverence that I had for him and the appreciation that transcended any sort of politics or differing views on anything. And I'm not taking a position on any of that, because it didn't matter. It didn't matter what he thought or I thought. What mattered was where we were similar and the time that we spent. And man, there's a couple different voices I have in my head that have shaped the man that I am. I grew up without a father in my house. And Bob Laddiser, my high school coach, Joe Moore, my offensive line coach, and Lou Holtz are the three that I find myself drawing upon the most.
Since you mentioned it, I'm curious, mentioning some of your former teammates maybe were alienated or felt alienated by some of his more political outspokenness later in his life. Do you think that does impact his legacy at all?
I don't, Jessica. That's a great question. His blood is thicker than water. And that's really what my message was. Either Notre Dame's a family or it's not. And because it is, all of us moved on from that pretty quickly. Because when you strip away all of the noise and all of the theism and us versus them and the finger pointing that's gone on in our country over the last decade plus, when you get down to it, we're all human beings and we all want the same things. And I was very relieved initially and touched, I think is the best way to describe it, as time's worn on, that we were able to move past that. The forgiveness that was given and received, the appreciation, and just almost a reversion, excuse me, almost a reversion to the fundamentals of trust, love, and commitment that he professed, ironically, is what allowed us to transcend some of those difficult challenges. So his legacy will be what it should be, which was he's one of the finest men Notre Dame's ever had, one of the best college football coaches in the history of our sport, and one of the finest men and people I've ever met that filled a very specific need for me when I needed one, that continues to this day.
No, it's powerful, like you said, and kind of a reminder of the role that coaches can, in the best of circumstances, play for the players that they're trying to help in a lot of different ways, maybe not just always, on the field, on the court, or anything like that. So, Aaron, incredible insight again for Jess and I, who both, came well after Coach Holtz's time in South Bend and didn't get the chance to know him personally the way you did. Incredibly powerful stuff. We can't thank you enough for that, as always. And as we mentioned before, Coach Holtz, Coach Moore, part of that legacy that now you continue to move forward, not only with the way you live, but with the Joe Moore Award, which is something you've spearheaded since the beginning. I've been fortunate to be a part of here. Got a lot of people proud of you, and certainly happy to be in your orbit, man. So today, another one of those days. We appreciate your time. Thanks, AT.
Appreciate you too, Mike. I'm just trying to make up for my 20s and 30s, brother. I got a lot of work to do.
Well, thankfully, a lot of time to do it. Thanks, brother.
All right.
Thanks again to Aaron for joining us. I think, Mike, it's always really nice to hear from people who actually knew the person who passed, personally on a more personal basis, especially when it's a public figure that, you and I have actually met Lou Holtz. My dad reminded me that I filmed some sort of like ESPN promo with him when I was a student back in the day. But I obviously didn't know him at all. And so I think it's really nice to hear from someone who did, because, everyone knows something about Lou Holtz, but he was a person. He had a lot of stuff going on. He was, complicated. He said some great things, said some things that I personally disagreed with, and I think has a really just his legacy as a Hall of Fame head coach is something that will stand the test of time, I'm sure, because he really was such a, like you said, excellent communicator, an amazing X's and O's head coach, detail oriented, and got the most from his players. So I certainly don't want to, wanted to hear from someone who really had that perspective from him.
No, it's a great reminder. Like people aren't flat characters, and obviously there's always a notion of speak no ill of the dead. But I also think this is a reminder of why, even for coaches that are alive, I'm always really hesitant to offer too strong opinions about who and what they are without talking to people that played for them, because I know what you get on the inside is so often very different from what people see on the outside. And every player's relationship is different. You got locker rooms with 100+ guys in it each and every year. Not every guy is going to love and get along with all their teammates, let alone all the coaches based off that dynamic. But, what you heard from Aaron is a reminder that, when you've got all of that shared experience with one another, the way that you internalize a lot of different things that happen over the years, it can be different. But also, just again, like the overwhelming impact that a coach can have on a certain person, and you might never know that as a time. We hear that line all the time from coaches about being teachers and molders of men and all that stuff. But Aaron is kind of an example based off his testimony of when that actually happens, how important it can be in someone's life. And so just a really powerful stuff from AT. He's always really, really eloquent, even when he's not picking words like effervescent to use there. So we appreciate all his insight
Also,
into Coach Holtz.
Tasteful Lou Holtz impression.
Again, like that's one of those, like, I think when you played for him, you're grandfathered into that. And I can tell you, I've gotten to hang out on a few Zoom calls. Again, I work with Aaron on the Joe Moore Award, who he's obviously, founded that and done so much of that over the last decade out of his own pocket on his own. It's been really incredible to watch for, the late Joe Moore as well, who he could probably write an entire book on his experience there. But I've gotten to get on a call with a bunch of the guys that played for Joe Moore and thus Coach Holtz. And it's amazing how many of them nail that lisp in the impression. Like when you get dog cussed by someone like that often, I'm sure that really internalizes it in your DNA.
That's amazing. I wasn't expecting it. Maybe I should have been. I don't know. Maybe he pulls this one out of his pocket a lot.
Oh yeah, no. Clearly that was well rehearsed and incredibly well done. So Aaron Taylor, a man who wears many hats, including part-time, and the great limited fake Lou Holtz from Aaron Taylor. Put that up in the poll.
Mike, before we move on to just a quick update on some men's and women's hoops, as the season has sadly ended for one team and continues for another. Do you have anything else you want to say? Any more thoughts on Lou Holtz passing away?
No. Other than again, it now, I think, not to make this too much about the season. Although, like you said, I think this season we are going to see a lot of tributes to Holtz, a lot of references to Holtz in the same way they had era on the helmets. I'm sure there's going to be a Lou on there or some sort of like helmet sticker. Like he won't be far away. And, maybe it's some higher power in all this, but walking into a season where Notre Dame feels like right now on paper, it's got the best chance to win a title. Certainly what it's felt like in my lifetime, with the quality of this team coming into the season, the relationship that we know Coach Freeman and Coach Holtz had, it's really going to be something if Notre Dame can finally get back to this kind of mountaintop, after an offseason where they lost, again, the last living national championship winning head coach now passing away. So it's a really wild backdrop going into all of this. But like Aaron said, I think for a lot of the people that knew him, more of a celebration of an incredibly long life than maybe necessarily a time for too much sadness, although there always is when it comes to loss.
Right. And like you said, the services are going to be on campus this upcoming week. And I'm sure there's going to be a who's who of former players and football coaches and people from the college football world and possibly, the media world and outside of it that are attending that. When I was a student, Father Hesburgh passed away, and it was sort of like for lack of a better term, it was an event on campus. Like it was a really big deal, and Notre Dame put on a really incredible memorial service for him where there were, politicians and dignitaries and all these people coming to pay their respects to him. So I'm sure it's going to be a similar scene on campus.
Definitely. With that in mind, too, as we're recording this podcast on Monday, March 9th, did want to also take a moment to recognize the late Don Casey, who was a guy that you and I had both gotten to know, former Notre Dame Monogram Club president from the fall of 2019 till 2022. But also was just a fixture around campus, a grad back in the day, was the captain of the swim team. He had 3 daughters who all went through there. His daughter, Bridget, was one of my sister's teammates on the Notre Dame swim team. You know, we had seen and been around him over the years at a bunch of different stops and locations, but one of the nicest men that I've ever met, one of the ultimate great Notre Dame men, a guy who really embodied what that's supposed to be about, and just someone that I have yet to find a person with a bad word about. Like the mourning that has come in for him, so well deserved. It was, sudden and caught a lot of us off guard. Incredibly sad. You think of his family, his wife Anne, who's phenomenal. The 3 daughters I mentioned, Megan, Katie, and Bridget, who's the daughter that I got to know through my sister Sydney. So just thinking of the Casey family today and this week, and an incredibly sad time for them. Rest in peace to Don Casey. Truly an incredible man, an incredibly kind, loving father, husband, friend, and someone that I know we're all going to dearly, dearly miss. So didn't want to get too far, away from this before, acknowledging him, and another massive loss for the Notre Dame community, as I know that service taking place in South Bend here early this week as well. So love to that family and everyone that knew Don this week, and certainly always there. No easy transitions and all this. I know we promised everyone some actual Notre Dame sports updates here at the end while we are here, since again, we will not be doing a pod next week, taking a little bit of a break, but wanted to make that hard transition here. But Jess, we do have a couple of seasons, I should say, still going on. One just ending in the Notre Dame men's basketball season, which after a year that by the end saw even the coach succumbing to injury during games, maybe felt like a merciful end to the Notre Dame men's basketball season, but also spring about new beginnings. And it feels like Notre Dame women's basketball, while it didn't get all the way to the mountaintop in the ACC tournament, feels like we got some juice to finally get excited about heading into March.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, the juxtaposition here is crazy, because the men's basketball team, it's sad when your last game, your season kind of just ends. Like, that's kind of how the football season ended, where we thought there might, probably be a postseason, and then there wasn't. And for the men's basketball team, they were really fighting to have any sort of conference championship postseason hopes, and those were dashed this past weekend. So their season has ended. We'll definitely talk, I think, more about that in the offseason as the transfer portal opens and maybe some signings are made. But on the flip side of that, the women's basketball team, like we talked about last week, kind of firing on all cylinders at the end of the season, and coming off of Hannah Hidalgo winning Player of the Year in the ACC and Defensive Player in the Year in the ACC for the second year in a row, which makes her the first player to ever do that in ACC history, which is a huge accomplishment. She was given the awards before Notre Dame's game on Thursday against Miami, and she had so many that Jim Phillips, our dear friend, the commissioner of the ACC, had to hold a couple of them for her, Mike. So we talked about last week how we thought there was really no competition for her in that category. And we were right. We called it. We called her shot, just like Hannah always does. And she, in fact, won both awards and was on the ACC Conference All-Tournament team. She had a really, really great weekend. And ultimately, Notre Dame fell short in the semifinals against Duke, who was the 1 seed, and ended up winning the tournament in overtime against Louisville. But they have just really figured out a way to play well together. And since we're not recording an episode next week, fingers crossed, if they make it through the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, we'll be able to talk about the season a little bit more. And it won't be over the next time Mike and I meet. But I can't say enough how enjoyable it has been to watch these last, I would say, 9 or 10 ACC games. Notre Dame going on winning 7 of the last 8, beating Louisville on the road, top 10 team, and then making it all the way to the semifinals of the tournament as a 5 seed, and playing a really close game against Duke, who took an early lead, and Notre Dame bounced back and had the chance to take the final shot and tie it up, but ultimately had a few looks and none of them fell in. So that was a bummer, but it's just been fun to watch. And I'm hoping they kind of locked up the 6th seed in the tournament. There's a chance, Mike, this would be messy. There's a chance they will play 3-seed TCU in the NCAA tournament, which if you're a women's college basketball fan or Notre Dame college basketball fan, you know that means Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo in Notre Dame and Neil Ivey would be playing against each other. So that would be really messy. There's a few other places they could also end up, but that one would definitely be the messiest.
I was going to say, just everyone replaying that tunnel video of Olivia and Hannah talking and relitigating so much of what went on at the end of last season. Love a good bit of drama, and that would be incredibly compelling, especially at a time where TCU and Olivia Miles were heavy favorites going into the Big 12 tournament and fell short in that regard, and now Notre Dame peaking at the right time. It feels like maybe a better opportunity than I would have imagined about a month ago for Notre Dame to come out on the right side of that. So going to be interesting. You mentioned all the accolades for Hannah Hidalgo. Like, obviously, the story's not yet finished with her in South Bend, and certainly this is a program where national championships, deep runs into March are a part of the legacies for so many of the great players. But in terms of sheer individual accomplishment, like Hannah Hidalgo, the Mount Rushmore of Notre Dame women's basketball, like, is her face already etched in stone there?
Yeah, I think it is, which, I mean, she's got another season left if she wants it at Notre Dame. Like, I think she could end up being the all-time leader in everything there. I think she just passed Skylar Diggins this past weekend in points. And I mean, she's her last 3 games of this tournament, I think she was averaging like 25 points or 28 points or something like that. And she's, got the steals. She's the team's leading rebounder right now. She's got the assists. I think, if anything, Mike, she's certainly on the Mount Rushmore. She did win the ACC tournament as a freshman, and they shared the regular season ACC title last year. So she has a few accolades under her belt. It's not like, national championship or bust, yes, but like they've won some hardware. But I think it's more so what I'm hopeful and optimistic about with the way this season has ended is that players around the country see the assist numbers. They see the potential of this team if Hannah has some more shooters around her. And they're like, yeah, I want to play with Hannah Hidalgo. She's going to be an absolute monster next season. And on top of that, Notre Dame's recruited really, really well. So I think I'm really optimistic, even if, the next time we talk, their season has ended on a sad or sour note. I think there's definitely a really good proof of concept here for next year.
No, it's a lot of bright futures right now around South Bend, built around some star players. I saw, plenty of celebration of that. So excited to see. And, we hope that we are still talking about Notre Dame women's basketball the next time we convene for this podcast. But if not, I'm sure we can take great pride in still talking about the future of that program and the fact that Notre Dame men's lacrosse has continued to defend their number 1 ranking after a road win against Ohio State this past weekend. And it's the back-to-back week right now that, from a rivalry standpoint, gotta love. Beat Ohio State on the road, 1-goal win there, and now coming back home to face Michigan this weekend. So you get Ohio State and Michigan in back-to-back weeks before you get to the meat of conference play here. It is great stuff from a team that's still right now lighting up Grace Hall. So I had to sneak that one in because I'm contractually obligated.
No, I think that was good. I think it was a sad podcast episode. It's never fun when, a legendary figure in Notre Dame history passes away, but I think we're ending it on an optimistic note about Notre Dame at large. And on that note, we'll see everyone in a couple weeks. So enjoy yourselves and go Irish.